Hey, it's Brian at 360 Politics. Let's go ahead and go right into things. By now, we've heard all about the debacle. Yeah, that's the meeting that was supposed to take place between President Zelensky and President Trump right there in the White House. What happened? Well, a lot of things happened wrong, but once again, what we do on this show is we pay close attention to not just the surface on the story, the surface story, but we also pay close attention to what is going on underneath the surface. So let's check this out.
With the, how much money is the U.S. going to put into the fund that is being created today, and how does this provide long-term security for Ukraine?
Well, we don't know exactly how much because we're going to be putting some money in a fund that we're going to get from the raw earth that we're going to be taking and sharing in terms of revenue. So it's going to be a lot of money will be made from the sale and from the use of raw earth. And as you know, our country doesn't have much raw earth. We have a lot of oil and gas, but we don't have a lot of the raw earth. And what we do have is protected by the environmentalists, but that can be unprotected, but still it's not very much. They have among the best in the world in terms of raw earth. So
it starts off like President Trump doing what he said he was going to do, which was set up a meeting between the Russians and the Ukrainians with the United States there is really more or less a broker. I think that's what Trump was envisioning. And so he comes out and says, sure enough, this is what we are here to do, sign the minerals deal. The next thing you know, Vice President Vance got involved, and Vice President Vance went ahead and made sure that Zelensky kind of understood some of the reasons they, as in the Trump administration, has some concerns because it was the fact that, well, Zelensky was working with the Harris campaign only a couple of months earlier, making campaign appearance with Kamala Harris. And of course, she used Zelensky as maybe one of the props, maybe one of the pawns inside of her effort to become the president of the United States. Check out the speech.
Tonight, Vice President Harris standing side by side with Ukraine's President Zelensky.
My support for the people of Ukraine is unwavering.
Accusing former President Trump of wanting Ukraine to surrender.
There are some in my country who would instead force Ukraine to give up large parts of its sovereign territory. They are not proposals for peace. Instead, they are proposals for surrender.
Late today, Trump responding.
it's not a surrender. What my strategy is to save lives. I'll meet with President Zelensky and we'll see what happens, but I believe I can work that out.
But then things got a little bit more heated because Zelensky actually started talking back to the Vice President of the United States.
Yes, but if Mr. President, with respect, I think it's disrespectful for you to come into the Oval Office and try to litigate this in front of the American media. Right now, you guys are going around and forcing conscripts to the front lines because you have manpower problems. You should be thanking the president for trying to bring it into this conflict.
Have you ever been to Ukraine? That you say what problems we have?
I have been to.
Come once.
I've actually watched and seen the stories, and I know what happens is you bring them on a propaganda tour, Mr. President. Do you disagree that you've had problems?
And of course, we know that the president has the vice president's back. The vice president was really trying to position Zelensky to make sure he understands that he's here getting the help of the United States. The United States does not want to see a war take place, but Zelensky's response is almost like as though he's mouthing off to Vance. Check it out.
You've allowed yourself to be in a very bad position, and he happens to be right about it.
From the very beginning of the war.
You're not in a good position. You don't have the cards right now. With us, you start having cards. Right now, you don't. You're playing cards. You're playing cards. You're gambling with the lives of millions of people. You're gambling with World War III. You're gambling with World War III. And what you're doing is very disrespectful to the country, this country. That's back to you. Far more than a lot of people said they should have.
Have you said thank you once? this
A lot
entire
of
meeting?
times.
No, in this
Even
entire meeting,
today.
have you said thank
Even
you?
today.
You went to Pennsylvania and campaigned for the opposition in October. Offer some words of appreciation for the United States of America and the president who's trying to save your country.
Next, Trump goes ahead and kind of puts Zelenskyy back in his place. And Zelenskyy starts talking over the president of the United States. So this is something that really started spiraling out of control to the point that he told Zelenskyy, you don't have any cards to play right now. We're here to help you. We're here to get a deal done. But you need to understand where your position is, President Zelenskyy. You don't have enough soldiers. You don't have enough money. You don't have enough weapons. We're here to talk. We're here to talk about minerals. But it doesn't sound as though you are really in a position to do a lot of negotiation. We can help you out. But I don't know. Maybe, just maybe, Zelenskyy doesn't see the bigger picture. Or maybe he was so fixated on what he thought was going to happen. Or maybe, just maybe, he thought the earlier meetings this week with Macron and Starmer from England were going to help solve this problem. But very quickly, things spiraled out of control. I'm not going to give you all the details here, but the meeting did not get anything signed. I think President Trump's staff said, hey, it's time, send the Ukrainians home. No deal. And with that, I want to make sure you understand where things have gone wrong, maybe in the past. So let's go take a quick look at some of the other things going on here that we don't quite understand about Ukraine. For instance, does anybody remember Hunter Biden? I do, but as it turns out, there has been a bit of a history there between Biden, Hunter Biden, and a natural gas company located inside of Ukraine. So here's a quick insight to what was going on here at this moment in time.
And ultimately the Biden brand.
Devon Archer served with Hunter Biden on the board of Ukrainian energy giant Burisma. And in testimony, he confirmed that when Hunter put his father on speakerphone with business clients, there was a brand being delivered.
You have someone who says, yes, the president was part of moving the brand. Well, what was the brand? I mean, this was an influence peddling brand. And the object of that influence peddling was Joe Biden. He was an essential part of that.
Finally, I want to make sure that we're understanding the other part of this equation, because I've shared a few clips here, but I think they've been used really, really in a proper way to maybe create a narrative that gives us all a little bit more insight to the bigger picture here. And I would finish this off with maybe a clip from Blinken's Instagram, because Trump specifically mentions World War III. And like, seriously, nobody wants World War III. Like, nobody. Russia doesn't, China doesn't, the United States doesn't, Ukraine most definitely doesn't. So we're kind of taking a closer look at what causes a war. And Blinken says in this video that NATO has provided 75 years of peace inside of Europe. It's worth following for no other reason that you can see the intentions of NATO. You can see the role that the United States has played in NATO. And maybe the most important piece is there's been peace and relative prosperity the entire time. We know that the people in Europe need to cough up more money to NATO. And I don't think the United States is pulling out of NATO, but I do think the United States is recognizing their oversized contribution to solving European problems. And most of these problems, maybe ideally, are solved in Europe. I do not want to see the United States downshift in their role in Europe, because the United States, in many ways, is the world's policeman. And with that, we must understand there is a significant role the United States plays in not just affairs in Europe, but affairs all over the world. We are a leader. This is the fact. And we must act like a leader. And we must bring people together and get business taken care of, because it's a heck of a lot easier to negotiate than it is to fight a war.
We're here at NATO headquarters, the North Atlantic Treaty Organization. This is my last NATO meeting as Secretary of State, and I'm so grateful to all of my colleagues, other foreign ministers, for everything that we've been able to do and do together these last 4 years. And when you look at the last 4 years, you see that we've made this alliance stronger, bigger, better resourced to deal with the many challenges that it has to face around the world. It's, I think, really important to step back and remember why this alliance came together in the first place. We'd had 2 world wars, and people around the world and in the United States were determined that there wouldn't be another one. And one of the ways we wanted to make sure that wouldn't happen was by creating this alliance. And what's unique about it is this: any country joining the alliance makes a compact that an attack on one is considered an attack on all. That means that any would-be aggressor really has to think twice before attacking another country, because it knows that if it attacks one, it has to take on all. And
President of the United States last century, Teddy Roosevelt, had a famous saying to speak softly and carry a big stick. Maybe that's the best way that politics are oftentimes handled. Speak softly, speak respectfully, make sure that our intentions are known, and when necessary, well, you bring out the hammer or you bring out the big stick to send the message. So today, we took a look at what happened, the debacle here in this, what we thought would be a very quick and thoughtful meeting, maybe setting the framework for a peace deal between Russia and Ukraine. And of course, the president this morning says, I don't think Ukraine is ready to have this talk. Let the war go on a little bit longer. Let more, unfortunately, lives get lost. Let less U.S. money go there. And maybe the Ukrainians will come back and want to solve this thing once for all. Hey, I'm Brian at 360 Politics. Thanks for joining us. A like and a subscribe will do wonders for you and wonders for this channel, and I can deliver this message to you on a daily basis. Thanks for watching and have a great day.